NFL Week 13, Kelly Stewart here on Wager Talk TV. This is Bet On It, Marco D'Angelo, Joe Raineri. Let's bring both of them in and get this show on the road. We've got a trio of primetime games, starting with the Thursday night game, which in theory could be a good one. Seattle, a 9-point underdog at Dallas, total 46. Marco, Dallas off a Thursday, just absolute steamroll of the Commanders. And Seattle tried to cover against the Niners, but was, a little lackluster. I thought we'd get maybe an okay Geno Smith. I was wrong. That was a very ugly offensive performance from that team.
Absolutely, Kelly. And you look at this one on the surface, and it just looks like it should be just a complete and utter blowout. Dallas has taken no prisoners. They've won their last 3 games by mammoth blowout scores, 49-17, 33-10, 45-10. But, Kelly, you beat an injury-riddled New York Giant team. Then you beat a Carolina team with a rookie quarterback. And, oh, by the way, they just fired the coach this week. And a Washington Commanders team. None of those teams are going to strike fear in anybody. So, yeah, Dallas is rolling, but this is typical Dallas. They're beating up on the weak teams. But consequently, because they are America's team and everybody loves to see those blowout scores, you're paying a premium here with the Cowboys. They're laying 9 points to Seattle, who is a team with a winning record. Granted, they're coming off getting their doors blown off last week, but isn't San Francisco really, I know our producer's going to, mute my mic, but aren't they the best team in the NFC right now? San Francisco, the record might not say it, but I think they are. This is a spot where I think the price is too high on Dallas. I can't do it. I'm going to go ahead and take Seattle. I think Dallas does win, but we're all about, you want to buy low and sell high. Well, the market can't be any higher on the Dallas Cowboys right now. And the market on Seattle is low because they've lost 2 games in a row. Well, those 2 games were at LA Rams. They lost by a point, and then the division game, and then the 49ers. I think they bounce back here and keep this game closer than people think. Dallas escapes, but I got it just 24-20. I'm taking Seattle plus the points.
Yeah, I like Seattle too here. And one of the things I thought Marco was just going to say, Joe, was look who the Cowboys have on deck. Oh, that's right. They play the Philadelphia Eagles. But he didn't say it, so I'll take that credit there. But also, this is a divisional sandwich spot for Seattle. If you look, they're playing the Niners again next week. Kind of one of those weird scheduling spots. Make this one make a little bit more sense for me.
Well, if it's the one thing, and we've said this on the show over the last month when talking about Dallas against sub-500 teams. In the Dak Prescott era, it has been absolute money to back Dallas. They are bullies against terrible teams. The Seahawks, are they a terrible team? Well, that's debatable. But we also know that the Cowboys have 7 20-point or more wins this season here. That is the best in the NFL. Their point differential is crazy. We also know that they outgained Philadelphia, but weren't able to pull out that victory because Dak couldn't figure out where the sideline was. And they also ran the play in front of the goal line instead, but that's a whole different story. The bottom line is this team offensively is rolling. And I do agree with Marco. I think Seattle is, I'm hoping they are going to be a little bit more competitive than they were against the 49ers on Thanksgiving, because I too, Cal, was on Seattle thinking that, Geno might show up for a change, and boy, were we wrong. But any which way you cut it, and that's why I'm looking, you got 2 teams that played on Thanksgiving, now are going to play on the Thursday night game. I don't see how this thing stays under 46 points. To me, this has got points written all over it. If Seattle is going to win, Geno has got to get the ball to the end zone. They got to figure out ways to get the ball in the end zone and not settle for field goals. I would not count out Dallas being able to put up 28 points or more in this one. So when it comes down to it, I think the Seahawks will score enough. I think the offense of the Cowboys has shown they are certainly going to score enough. And I got the over in this one. I think it's a dead over. Whether or not they can cover, well, Marco's a little skeptical of it. I think they're both going to score enough to get us near 50, not near 40.
Interesting. A primetime over. We haven't seen one of those for a while. Speaking of overs, this is a team that was a dead over team and now is no longer. Sunday night, Kansas City, 6.5-point road favorites at Green Bay. Total 42.5. Joe, I want to like Green Bay here so bad. Couple of situations, though. Kansas City plays the Bills on deck. Maybe not looking ahead here to a game that doesn't, quote-unquote, matter. But, man, Green Bay absolutely dominated their arch rival in the Lions on Thanksgiving. Do you think maybe they're a little fat and sassy, like Marco likes to say?
Well, I think the fact that this is under a touchdown, I think the market is telling you, listen, Seattle, Kansas City certainly seem to have figured some things out offensively last week against the Raiders. But I'll caution people, it's the Raiders here. In the meanwhile, the Packers are one of these teams that the progression of how well, we talked about it in a college football show there, Kel, about how App State, it's amazing the transformation on where they started to where they are. This is a team that played its best football as it got later into the season. It's the same thing we're seeing here with the Green Bay Packers, who Jordan Love appears to be actually taking that next step, right? While many of us had stuck a fork in them early on in the season when they couldn't score, they couldn't do anything. Boy, oh boy, did that kid show up and show out on Thanksgiving against a pretty decent pass rush and defense of the Detroit Lions. So here we are, and you said it. Look at who Kansas City has coming up on deck here. You've got an out-of-conference game here for Kansas City. Not going to mean a whole lot to them. Going to mean way more, I think, to Green Bay to keep this thing rolling. We're talking about a Packers team offensively that has top 375 yards of offense now in 4 straight games. That is the kind of production at home in a game with a total at 42.5 that leads me to believe, hate the spot for Kansas City, love the direction that Green Bay is going and building confidence. Yeah, I'll take the points here. I think Kansas City will win, but I think Green Bay is going to make them work for it, and 3 points is all I see separating these two teams.
Yeah, that's really interesting because you did make note of the line. It's not 7.5 because the whole world will be teasing Kansas City. At 6.5, just can't break my own teaser rules there, Marco. You like the total here. I know we make fun of Joe a lot about playing the totals, but all of a sudden, here comes Marco.
Yeah, like, what's going on this week? I mean, like, Joe's become me, and, if I'm going to be Joe, damn it, I'm going to be Joe. Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Primetime game, and I'm not betting you over. Who's betting you over on a primetime game? Well, Joe is on Thursday, but I will point out, remember, one thing about the Thursday primetime games, and that's why I do agree with Joe, both of those teams played on Thursday last week. So it's a normal week of preparation. One of the reasons why the unders have been done so well on Thursday is that short preparation turnaround time. Both teams have the full week. But to this one, hey, Kansas City's been a stone-cold, dead nuts under team all season long until last week. Why last week? Well, you know what? They came off that Monday night game. Again, I'm going to risk my mic being muted. A game in which they absolutely dominated the Philadelphia Eagles and lost. They came out and almost lost the same game twice. They fell behind 14-0 early in the first quarter. Well, when you fall behind 14-0, you got to push the offense a little bit. You got to get some points. That's something Kansas City hasn't had to do because the defense has played so well and they scored early. They just did what Andy Reid normally does. Takes his foot off the gas, puts the hammer down on the defense, and the games have been going under. So you got a high scoring game last week, 31 points out of Kansas City because they needed to score the points. I see this as going back to one of those games for Kansas City where they're going to make life tough for Jordan Love. Yeah, he's looked good the last couple weeks, but he faced the banged-up Pittsburgh Steelers defense a couple weeks ago. no Minka Fitzpatrick. And then last week, well, what can we say about the Lions? The Lions were the Lions, especially the Thanksgiving edition of the Lions, and he had success. He's not going to have that much success this week, and I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, and Andy Reid will do what Andy Reid does in the second half. If they have that lead, he'll run the football, milk the clock, high possession throws, keep the chains moving, keep the clock moving, and then, get to that game they got against Buffalo next week. It ain't broke. I'm not fixing it. Under with Kansas City. The only thing I am doing different is because I'm not a slacker. I'm going the full game. I'm not taking a nap at halftime and start drinking bourbon and everything else. I'm a
Marco, you sound jealous.
Well, thank you, Cal. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's all right, Marco. Me casa su casa. You can come over and drink with me in the first half any day. Don't worry.
Oh, Marco. Monday primetime game. Cincinnati sans Joe Burrow is an 8.5-point underdog at Jacksonville. Another low total, 38.5. I'm not overthinking this one, Marco. Jags made a couple of my teasers this week. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. What do you think?
Kelly, you are speaking my language because I will have so many teasers to Jacksonville. But I'm going to tell you right now, you got to do it now. Because I guarantee you that the books will move this game to 9.5 to block the teasers. That's their only defense in this game. And lock them in now, Kelly. And I know you never listen to me when I tell you this one. Get those teasers now, because then when during the week they push it up to 9 and 9.5, if we want to come back and protect some of that exposure that we have on that laundry list of teasers that we will have to Jacksonville, we can get a little bit of Cincinnati, plus 9.5, and play for a middle. But you tease Jacksonville down. I just don't see how Cincinnati is going to be able to trade points in this game. Jake Browning was not good last week against, the Steelers. I know, outside of JJ or TJ Watt, the Steeler defense leaves a little bit to be desired till Minka gets back. I will go ahead and take Jacksonville. Tease them all you want.
Tease. It is still available. I just put in one with our producers, Eagles, even though I like the other side of that one. Joe Raineri, 38.5 low totals. Ralph did a little TNA segment on totals under 39 a few weeks back. Here's another one. We just not overthinking this one.
Yeah, I'm not. But instead of going with the full game total, settle down, Marco. All right, the bourbon is poured anyway, but I am still going to go full game. Only I'm going to go full game with the Jacksonville team total when it comes out here. I think this Bengals defense is shot. I don't think they're getting to the point where now they're going to be out on the field for a lot more plays because of the inability now Browning and this Cincinnati offense to really get any sort of sustained drives here. And that's a recipe for disaster against a Jags offense that is starting to put it together. I mean, I could not have been more impressed with Jacksonville on the road against Houston last week. We know Doug Peterson. This is the time of year he wants his teams to start revving it up, especially this offense, which had a couple of lackluster games over the first couple of months of the season. I don't think that's going to happen here. I think Jacksonville will have no problem moving the ball in his Cincinnati defense. I think Doug Peterson is going to go for the kill shot here. I think when it is all said and done, while yes, Jacksonville and every teaser known to mankind and then some, but I think Jacksonville and their team total, instead of having to worry about Cincinnati adding anything to the total or screwing it up, going either over or under it, I'm just going to bet on the offense of the Jacksonville Jags. I'm going to bet on the defense of Jacksonville to give extra possessions to Trevor Lawrence and the ability to put more points on the board. So whatever that team total is when it comes out, I'm going over it for Jacksonville.
It is out. It is 23.5. Actually, some spots juiced to the under, minus 120. Oh, interesting. A lot of people probably going to be betting those under. So they're going to give you a nice little minus 105 on the other side there. Joe Raineri, I'm kicking you guys out, though, for a minute. I got to put on my nerd glasses for all my nerd charts with all my nerd friends, starting off with Ralph Michaels. The man with the pen, Ralph Michaels, here to bring us all of the trends and angles. I cannot believe I'm going to say this. NFL Week 13 is here, Ralph. And I know you've dug up some really good stuff for us, but first, let's start with those streakers.
Let's look at Jeff Streakers for this week. The Philadelphia Eagles with 5 straight ATS wins. Well, let me say this. In the last 5 games, they have not lost. You see the asterisk in there? That means there was a push within that streak. You look at the losses. The Jets, in their last 5 games, they have yet to cover because of the asterisk. And the New England Patriots, 4 straight ATS losses. In this season of unders, Kelly, not surprising we don't have any over streakers, but the Carolina Panthers, with that defense, 5 straight unders for Panther backers.
God, that team is so bad, Ralph. I don't even want to think about it. Yeah, of course they have 5 straight unders. That's what I should have been betting instead of them. Though they did fire their coach this week. Maybe that should have been the question I should have texted you, Ralph, for the week. What did the team do after they fire their coach? We may never know. But what we do know is Ralph's got a nerd chart for us, and that's my favorite thing.
Kelly, I'll tell you what. I will tweet out on Thursday the record for the new head coaches. So at Cal Sports LV, follow me on Twitter, check out my Twitter feed, and I will show you the records of those new coaches in their first game. All right, the chart is this. It's division teams on the left-hand side, non-division games on the right-hand side, and it goes back to 2015. So I wanted to see if there was a correlation as the season progressed. And Kelly, when there's something in your mind that you think should occur, and it does occur, and the data shows it occurs, that makes it just even stronger. I'm going to focus on the top left corner, guys, which are division home dogs. In September, division home dogs have covered 63.3%. In October, 55.2%. In November, 39.7%. And in December, 41.1%. Why does this make sense? Kelly, we know that bookmakers in the beginning of the season are guessing how strong a team is. And there's many times the dogs play better than they should. There's many times people have expectations for favorites and they don't play as well. So you have a division team that knows their opponent well. They play them twice a year. And when they're an underdog and they're healthy in the beginning of the season, you see them in green with very positive ATS numbers. Later in the season, if you're a home dog, that means you've obviously are not the better team. You've gotten worn out. You have an opponent that's coming in as an away favorite, likely in a playoff scenario, trying to win to get to the playoffs. So look at those November and December negative numbers for division home dogs. The favorites, again, the home dog for the non-division home dogs, back and forth. So that's nothing we're going to look at. I don't want to look at that at all. When you look at division home favorites, take a look. 3 of the 4 months are in red. So the chart tells me this: play on division home dogs early in the year, fade division home dogs late in the year, and if you blindly faded division home favorites anytime during the year, it's been a positive. But again, the number one thing to take out, take a look at those division home dogs and think about those situations moving forward the next few weeks in December.
See, now, Ralph, I mean, divisional road dogs. Because divisional road dogs were so good to start the year. Now I'm kind of curious to see how maybe they've fallen off here to end the season.
Well, Cal, division road dogs, you just look at the division home favorites and take the opposite records. So if I had posted division home dogs, they would all be in green, exactly what you said.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Awesome stuff from Ralph, because he is the best. Just making it make sense for me. Okay, we've got 5 trends, angles, or situations for this week in the NFL.
Kelly, I think we used this on the show last week, but it's worth repeating. And again, this was one of my most popular tweets when I did it last week. We talked about it on the Thanksgiving show. Riverboat Ron Rivera, be it at Carolina, be it at Washington, when his teams are a dog of 7 or more, they are now 25-5 83.3% to the over. He gets his team ready. He gambles. His team always continues to play, scores some late touchdowns. So, first one, Ron Rivera's team is a dog of 7 or more, 25-5 to the over. System number 2, how does a home dog of 3.5 or more do versus opponent off a loss as a home favorite? Well, let's see. The Saints are a home dog of 3.5 or more. The Lions lost at home on Thanksgiving as a home favorite. Those teams like New Orleans, 23% against the spread. So it says to fade the Saints, that puts the Lions in a 77% ATS situation this week. System number 2, you pulled an upset as a dog of 6 or more, and now you're a dog of 6 or more again. This goes back to 2010. Who is it applying to? Of course, the Green Bay Packers. They pulled the upset on Thanksgiving against Detroit, and now they're a dog again of 6 or more against the Chiefs. Those teams off the upset win, 21-57, only 26.9%. So that clearly says to fade the Green Bay Packers. How about teams in System 3 that need to come back from behind and win the game? The Eagles trailed last week. They came back and won. When teams go into halftime down 9 or more, they make their adjustments. They need a big second half to overcome that deficit, and they get that big comeback, and they do win the game. Going back to 2012, teams that trailed by 9 or more at halftime and won their game are 37.9% this week. That says to fade the Eagles against San Francisco. We talked about the Lions earlier, and it was a fade the New Orleans Saints situation. This one is to play on the Detroit Lions. So we have a TNA double on Detroit this week. When you look from game number 8 on, if you have a team that has a win percentage over 65% and is off a loss as a home favorite, like Detroit is, they have gone 31-15, 67.4%. And Kelly, think about it. It makes perfect sense. Even if you lost the game, you have a win percentage of 65% in the second half of the season. That means you are an elite team, or at least close to it. You're off a loss as a home favorite. Those quality teams off that embarrassing loss have bounced back to the tune again of 67.4%.
Maybe I'm just mean, but I want them to lose every single game from here until eternity. That is...
Aren't you going to blow kisses to Gianni Detroit as you say that?
No, I literally said last week on the show, if they lost outright, I was never speaking to he and Bobby again. Ask him if I've spoke to them since Thanksgiving. I have not. That being said, Ralph, you are the best. And I might have to bet on the Lions this week. At CowSportsLV on Twitter. And I got to figure out an Instagram name for him, but he is going to be on Instagram soon. Mr. Ralph Michaels, I'll see you next week for some more NFL TNA. It's time to bring in Andy Lang now, of course, for some Prop Shop. The king of prop bets over at Wager Talk, Andy Lang, at Bump Sports on Twitter. Andy, you've got a pair of, well, we'll call one a best bet for, note-taking purposes, but we've got a pair of bets that I like both of this week. One in Thursday Night Football, but we're going to go to Sunday afternoon football first here. We've got the San Francisco taking on the hottest team in football, the Philadelphia Eagles.
I really like this number of 1.5 touchdown passes. I think Brock Purdy goes over this one. So when we look at the Philadelphia Eagles, one thing I've been paying attention to hard is just their schedule and just how brutal it's been. You know, we go back and they had to face the Miami offense, division rivals in Washington and Dallas. They get the bye week, Kansas City, then Buffalo. And, I mean, this is just a really, really rough run. I think we started to see a little fatigue last week in their defense. Their defense is fine against the run, but, man, they really started to give up huge chunks through the passing game. And when we look at the last 3 quarterbacks to face them, Josh Allen had 2 touchdown passes. Patrick Mahomes had 2 touchdown passes. Dak Prescott had 3. And they're 10-1. They've navigated this part of the schedule really, really well. this just feels like a little bit too much for them. Next week they're at Dallas, and then they just get a really, really nice break at Seattle, then Giants, Cardinals, Giants. So if you're pointing at a loss through this really tough stretch, I think it's this one at San Francisco. And we look at Brock Purdy. Since the bye week, he's thrown 7 touchdown passes. He only threw 1 last week, but didn't need to against that terrible Seattle team. Had 3 against Tampa Bay, 3 against Jacksonville. I feel like this is a 49ers team that comes in and gets it done through the air. And Kelly, this Eagles team tied with the Bears for the second most touchdown passes allowed at 23. Only one team is worse. That's the Commanders. Look at Brock Purdy to get over 1.5 touchdown passes.
Andy, I do a show with a bunch of 20-year-old kids, and you've been very integral in that success. And this morning, to speak their language, we talked about this game, and I said, let me think of the right word. Oh, that's right. The Eagles secondary is ass. I think that's what you just needed to say for our audience, but you said it so much more eloquently. So Brock Purdy over 1.5 touchdown passes. Andy, you've got a best bet for us on the Cowboys.
Seattle Seahawks are ass. How about that? It's the gift that keeps on giving. And as the great Joe Raineri says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Cowboys team total over 27.5. They're at home. They're playing a beat-up Seattle team that is really struggling. I feel like we talk about this every week, but we'll keep going through it. Listen to these point totals they've had at home. 30 points against the Jets, 38 against the Patriots. They put up 43 against the Rams, 49 against the Giants. Last week, easy cash when they put up 45 against Washington. They are front runners, but honestly, Kelly, it makes it easier to bet on them. You know what they're going to get when they're facing a weak team. They're going to stomp on them. They're going to score as many points. They're going to put up as many stats as possible. This is a Seattle team that just gave up 31 points to San Francisco. I don't see them stopping this Dallas Cowboys team. So let's just rinse and repeat. Take this Cowboys team total over 27.5. And if you're feeling frisky, you can take it up to 30.5, 31, 32.5. There are books that that offer these alt lines at plus money. If you think they're going to put up another 40 points, by all means, they could absolutely do it against a Seattle team. But for purposes of this bet, I'm just going to cash this Cowboys team total over 27.5.
New nickname, Altline Andy, at Bump Sports on Twitter. Thank you, Andy Lang. We're going to see you next week. Keep on cashing those prop bets. Now let's bring it back in Joe and Marco to figure out who's getting high and who's eating sandwiches. Clearly, I'm the one that's high. I've got my fake glasses on from 2 segments ago. That being said, Joe, tell me who's way too high this week.
Well, me, but besides that, I would say the Dolphins and this Washington Commanders team, this is just entirely too high in my book here. Now, listen, in case you haven't noticed here, the Dolphins offense, the perception of this Dolphins offense over the last month is not, is still the same like it was to start the year. Yes, this team, everyone always talks about Dolphins, goes, yeah, but they dropped 70 on Denver. Well, have you seen Denver's defense lately? Yeah. Have you seen Miami's offense? Quite honestly, I don't even know how the hell they got over in the last game against the Jets. Oh, that's right, because it took 2 pick sixes and another defense to set up a touchdown in order to get the damn thing over. Not that I was on the under or anything along those lines, but the point remains the same. This is not a offense here that I want to be backing overs on, and neither is Washington. How many more times do we have to watch Sam Howell get sacked? How many more times do we actually have to watch the inability of them in the red zone to punch it in here? I've seen now back-to-back weeks with this Commanders team that are losing to quarterbacks that are laughable with teams that are laughable. I do not trust either offense in here. And to get over 50.5 points, we need a lot to go right offensively, and I don't see it happening. I love the Miami defense. I think Vic Fangio has got these guys in the right spot. He's got the crew he wants. He's up to his same old tricks, even though they lost Phillips, which is a big loss for this Miami's team to the Achilles there. I believe they're bringing in Jason Pierre-Paul, who the hell knew that he was even still around to play football, but he is with the club hand ready to go. Watch those firecrackers. But any which way you slice it, I am not trusting Tua in this offense, nor the Commanders at Sam Howell to have enough juice offensively to get this thing up and over the total. Miami seems content on just winning games and moving on. At a conference game, they're not going to take any unnecessary chances. Give me the under. This is way, way too high in my book here, Kel.
Ooh, way too high, unless, of course, Miami wins 51-0 because it's the Commanders. Marco D'Angelo, I accused you of having another sandwich for me. I asked you weeks ago if I could go on a diet, and now you're finally giving me some reprieve.
Well, Kelly, I heard what all you ate. Thanks. Oh, no, wait a minute. You lost your appetite on Thanksgiving.
No, I didn't eat anything on Thanksgiving. I just want to put the record out there. I barely spoke. I barely ate. I didn't even barely drink on Thanksgiving. I knew once that first Packers touchdown was scored, how my day was going to go. And I basically, well, let's put it this way. Brett's uncle asked if I was on suicide watch at least 3 different times. He's like, I've never heard you so quiet or just like this. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, I started yelling in the first half. Everybody was outside. I kind of took that as a hint of maybe I should tone it down. So you're right. I actually probably lost weight on Thanksgiving, unlike the rest of America.
Yes, and the Detroit Lions, New England is a team that's dead to me. I don't want to bring it up, but the Detroit Lions have cost you Survivor. Was it 2 of the last 3 years? Remember
that would be correct. Yes. Well, listen, in fairness, when we were in Pittsburgh, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers that cost me Survivor because they decided to make an announcement late Friday night that Big Ben wouldn't be playing, and the line plummeted.
Saturday night. Night. We were at dinner.
I don't know what happened. I was at some strip club with Bobby the bookie. I don't even know which day it was. All I know is that I was like sitting at a steakhouse, and I was like, "Oh, that's not good."
Yeah.
It was a good steakhouse, so that was good. That was a good restaurant. We sat right at the bar and ate.
Happy birthday, Marco!
Yes. Yeah. Strip club and Bobby the bookie may have been the least shocking thing of that entire exchange right there. I'm just going to throw that out right there.
Where I just looked around the room and I was like, I need to go to bed. Like, if I have to be a presentable human being, I don't know what time it is. I have no idea what part of town I'm in. I'm getting in an Uber and I'm going to bed.
Yeah, and as we got back to the hotel, when Johnny, me, and Bobby went to the elevator, Kelly turned around and went to the hotel bar, back to the hotel bar. Do you remember that, Kelly?
Yeah,
those are 2 separate incidences. I just want you to know those are 2 separate days. We were there for 3 days. That was day 1. You guys wanted to go to bed early, day 1, or take a nap or something. I don't know.
All right, let's get. What game am I doing? Oh, okay, the trap game.
The trap game.
Oh, you can't. This whole conversation was a trap. Oh, God.
All right, here is the trap. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, all right? Everybody now, Matt Canada got fired last week, all right? Hallelujah. Yes, I am happy. They put up over 400 yards of offense last week for the first time in almost 3 years. That means Ben Roethlisberger was still here during that streak. How many points did they score last week? Okay, that's what you count by. Okay, they scored 16 points against the Bengals, who had Jake Browning at quarterback and couldn't generate any offense at all. All right, this is a spot where everybody thinks everything all of a sudden is fixed in Pittsburgh because Matt Canada's gone. It's not. It's going to improve 100%, but they still got to find a way into the end zone. I can't lay points with Pittsburgh of this nature against an Arizona club. Yeah, Arizona's 2-10. I get it. Pittsburgh's 7-4, but Arizona's 1-2 in the 3 games with Kyler Murray, with one of the 2 losses being by 5 points. The other problem is it is Kyler Murray. He is a mobile quarterback. The Steelers have problems when facing mobile quarterbacks. They don't face a lot of them. Yeah, they get to see Lamar Jackson twice a year if he's not hurt, but that's about it. And they're going to struggle against this Arizona team that is playing with nothing to lose. They're not going anywhere. There's no pressure on this team. They're okay if they lose. They get a high draft pick, but they are going to cause the Steelers problems. I am going to go ahead and take Arizona plus the points. In a perfect world, Pittsburgh wins by 1. Like it worked out for me last week when I had Cincinnati on teasers. That was great. But, unfortunately, I think Arizona can win this game outright. I toyed with whether or not this was going to be my dog of the week, or so I could bring Kelly the trap. The trap is don't fall into the Pittsburgh Steelers being all fixed. They're not. They're still dysfunctional on offense. Take Arizona. 20-17, Arizona wins.
Ooh, I was going to ask if this could have been your barking dog, but you already answered that question. So now I guess you have to give me a different barking dog.
I do. And yeah, I could have been, swinging my dog around with a bigger one, but I came back to a littler one, I guess go with what you're accustomed to. And that's going to be taking Cleveland plus 3.5. I'm going to take this dog. Yeah, they're ugly. I get it. The Browns, that quarterback situation there. What are we going to do? Who's going to quarterback for the Browns? They're going against the Rams. Oh, look, the Rams. They won big last week. The Rams always beat Arizona, okay? They own Arizona. That's the division where it's like, yeah, there's division rivalries, but certain teams beat other teams all the time in that division. And the Rams over Arizona is like a birthright for them. I am going to look for them. What do I always say? Give me the better defense, getting points. Well, there is no question that Cleveland is the better defense in this game. And last week, as ugly as it was, it got out of hand. They lost their quarterback who got a concussion. They had to bring P.J. Walker back in. We know he's not the answer, but even more so when he doesn't get to practice during the week because, they were banking on DTR. I am going with Cleveland here. Whichever quarterback is going to be in there, we'll have the reps during the week to be prepared. And if they don't turn the football over 3 times, they stay in this game. Not only stay in this game, they win the game. The Rams are still not a good good offensive team or good team, period. They've got a lot of holes on this team. And one of the things with this pass rush of Cleveland, they are going to get to Matthew Stafford. He's a statue back there. Now, granted, you got the injury to Garrett. That's a little bit of a concern for Cleveland, but they still have depth on this defense. Give me the better defense getting points. Give me Cleveland, the better team. And I'm there. I'm calling it Cleveland 23-17.
Ooh. All right, Joe, there's a few sizable underdogs this week in the NFL. Who's bringing the upset?
So I was on the show. I originally had, I was going back and forth between Arizona and Green Bay as my dogs here. But we did talk about Green Bay, obviously, in the primetime game. Marco just laid it out perfectly as to why don't believe the hype here. Non-conference spot against a team that, again, it really doesn't matter how many yards you get. It matters how many points you get, Marco, right? That's how you actually win games in the NFL. Nobody gives a crap if you got 600 yards, 400 yards, or 300 yards. So those 2 dogs I like, but I'm going to throw one out here. I'm going to pivot here quickly. And I am going to back, because of why I just read it too, the New York Jets at home. Get it. 2.5, 3 points here. No. Hear me out here. Guess who's back at practice this week? One, Aaron Rodgers is now on the field, back with the team, and they've got that 21-day window in order to activate him. Now, I know it's a long shot, but you got a Jets team, or a long shot that Aaron Rodgers will actually play again this year, but he's making the effort. He is making the effort to be able to be with the team here and give them some hope because they're on a 4-game losing streak, but they're not eliminated from the playoffs here, all right? So they have an opportunity. And don't forget, it was a short week with Boyle during the, on a Friday. It was just, the whole situation was terrible. But now we got a full week under. You got Aaron Rodgers back and around this team on a regular basis. There is some hope. And the hope lies in the fact that who in the hell is Arthur Smith and the Falcons to be showing up on the road and laying points? I don't care who the hell they're playing. It's still a championship defense going up against a quarterback who still can't stop turning the damn ball over here in Desmond Ridder. You know the Jets defense going to show up and get out. I don't think we need an awful lot from the Jets offensively. I think they're going to be better than what we've seen. I am not laying points with Atlanta. I love the fact that Aaron Rodgers is making an attempt and an effort to try and motivate this team and to keep hope alive. And I think they pull out the win here straight up at home against a overhyped Atlanta team who thinks, what, they have figured it out? They haven't figured anything out. What they're going to figure out is that they went on the road and the Jets ended up beating them outright.
Unfortunately, I don't hate that bet. And I have under 9.5 wins plus 105. And I would like to keep it that way because it was just nice and easy. And now they win this game and Aaron Rodgers comes back. That would be like the worst of anything that could ever happen because they play a bunch of garbage teams left, like the Commanders and the Patriots. I don't want to even think about it. Aaron Rodgers, can you just wait like 3 more weeks? And that would be great. All right. It'd also be great. Sit down for a few minutes with Las Vegas Cris.
Well, last week we talked about 10-point teasers, and I gave 6 examples of some 10-point teasers that look good, and those all won. And a totals consideration, if you're interested in that, that didn't win. But the one game I gave was I got stuck on that Detroit Lions leg, so the second leg didn't even matter. I lost Detroit, Baltimore, so apologies. Anyway, came across something different today. I want you guys to consider that you can do. I wanted to bet a basketball game today, and I noticed the line was 3, and it popped into my head, why don't I use a teaser and see what a teaser into the NFL is going to be? And this is really interesting because cross-sport teasers have wildly different prices and rules, and what they include, it's just bizarre. Some places will give you 4 points on a basketball side of a teaser. Some places will give you 5.5. It's unbelievable. So you have to check at each location. But in this particular case, I'm going to bet the basketball game anyway. So why not, instead of taking +3, I used it as a front leg, teaser leg, into an NFL game this weekend. So I took the +8.5, and I went through all the key numbers in basketball, which is the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's a good first leg. And I used that into a leg for NFL this Sunday, and that cost me -120 at Bookmaker. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, that these are some of the things you should look for, but be really careful on what they give you. So they give you 5.5 points, -120. Some places will only give you 4. That's just a huge difference. So be careful on those. Secondly, my comments and in YouTube and other shows, I am getting bizarre teasers that people have laid. And I have to come out here and I have to remind people of several rules you just don't do. Number 1, you don't tease to 3 and 7. You need to get past those numbers. You don't tease from 2.5 to the 3.5. So just because you got past the 3.5, you teased from a crappy number, and you're not getting enough value to do that direction. You don't use 6 and 7 point teasers for mid-range totals. And you don't take a 6-point teaser from 3.5 to 9.5. So all these things came up in my comments this week and just scared the bejesus out of me. So please don't do any of those things. If you have to tease a 3.5, you at least, you're better off taking it to the 10.5 on a 7-point teaser. This week in particular, there are 2 games that stand out that people may gravitate to want to tease, and that is the Chargers and the Chiefs. I want to remind people that the value of each teaser leg is $2.80 plus. The money lines on both of those are less or lower. So you don't tease those. You put those in a money line parlay if you like that combination. 10-point teasers. It's tempting to kind of look at Dallas and look at Miami and look at Jacksonville and say, maybe I'll do a 3-team 10-point teaser on that. Well, why don't you look at it two different ways? Your alternatives on that would be the money line. Add up the money lines. I did the work for you. Mainly those 10-point teasers are going to cost minus 120, minus 130. Now, this isn't a full 10-point teaser by any means, but if you do that combination on the money line, it's minus 109. So what we learned from this is the lines around the 10, instead of just blindly doing 10-point teasers, punch in the money line combination and see if you're going to save some money or maybe get an extra point or something like that of value. Alternatively, the same 3 teams, 7-point teaser. Get Dallas down to 1.5, get Miami down to 2, get Jacksonville down to 2. You get plus 130 in that equation. So that's a 40-cent difference from the money line parlay, and even a greater difference with a 10-point teaser price. So just some considerations to consider when you look at how many different ways you can actually bet the same combination and see what fits for you. Personally, I don't have a great play for you guys this week. I give you guys a play that I stand behind, win, I lose. But this week, I think I would probably go with that 3-team 7-point teaser getting plus 130. And you can actually get better than plus 130. I have a place that gives me plus 150. So I hope they're not listening. Take that away from me. So that is all I have for you. So good luck this weekend.
Thank you to Las Vegas Cris at Las Vegas Cris on Twitter for his contributions here on Bet On It. If you have a question for him, jump in the comment section and we will try to get it answered for you. Now we're going to go from one sharp to another because it's time for that gold with the Great Gambler VR.
All right. Thank you, guys. We got some NFL. Not a lot of quantity, but definitely some quality here. So I'm going to dive right in. Let's start off with 472. Green Bay, +7, +6.5, +6. Multiple groups on the Green Bay side. That one's legit for sure. To 451. LA Chargers, New England Patriots, over 40.5, 469. Cleveland, LA Rams, over 39.5. Give you a side right here. Carolina Panthers at +6. Every time it moved up from 5.5 to 6, there was a group ready to snatch it. And one of the groups that I work with has asked for +6. I haven't been able to snatch one yet, but that's definitely a buy number on the Carolina Panthers. And finally, 469, Cleveland at +4.5 and +5. And here's a total for you. Arizona, Pittsburgh, over 39.5, over 40. That's going to do it for this week's NFL. Thanks again for all your support. Best of luck. Do some damage, cash them, don't trash them. And don't forget, smash that like button. And don't forget to leave a comment.
As always, thank you to VR. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Greek_Gambler. Now it's time to wrap the show up. And that means we're here for some of those best bets. There was a team last week that looked really good. And the only reason why I was watching is because I had a teaser on the Buccaneers. And the Colts sure made me sweat that. They put up almost 400 yards of offense, sacked Baker Mayfield 6 times, and did not let basically Tampa Bay get anything accomplished on third down. But we did cover that teaser. Now, I understand the Titans on the flip side looked really good because they played the Panthers last week, who now subsequently fired Frank Wright. Well, that's okay. We're going to see if this offensive line of the Titans can't give Will Levis just this much more time. Getting 1.5 here at home. I know the Colts won the first meeting 23-16, but that was with Ryan Tannehill and also Anthony Richardson. But that's way in the past at this point. I like this Titans team to not only cover a teaser leg, but to win this game outright. I expect Derrick Henry to be able to run all over the Colts. Whew, that's one thing they haven't been able to do is be able to shut down that run. Speaking of running game, oh, that's right. Guess who they're going to be without? It's going to be a rough one for the Colts backers after last week looking so great. I think right here is a sell high spot on Indianapolis. Give me the Titans on the money line. Marco, you had a hell of a run this year in both shows in terms of best bets. And unfortunately, the Patriots ruined you last week. I am so glad that I missed that one. I had such a crappy Sunday with the Bills at a push because I missed the 3.5, and the Chargers even at 3.5 with Zay Flowers. But I digress. I saved myself a loser, but boy, was I kicking myself when I saw that one hit 4.5 and thought, man, Marco gets another best bet to cash. And of course, I'm not involved.
Yeah, Kelly, that team that you're talking about, I don't know who it is because I looked at the schedule. They're not on it. They're done. They're playing. Oh, good luck. We're not involved in that one, but I'll tell you what, I've talked about this team several times today already, making references to them. So it's only fitting that I come back and use it as the best bet going against them. And, I'm sorry, Dan, but the Philadelphia Eagles, the last 3 weeks, Dallas, Kansas City, and Buffalo, it is like watching Groundhog Day on endless loop because every single week they are getting dominated for 3/4 of the game and somehow find a way to win the game. Getting a little tired of it. I've been on the wrong side of it all 3 times. Well, maybe 4 times is the charm. I'm going with the 49ers here. Give every cliche that you want to use for this game, and we'll start with revenge. And yes, revenge is overused, but we say it over and over again. When it's playoff revenge, you remember. We saw these same Philadelphia Eagles find a way to win with their Super Bowl revenge against the Chiefs. Well, now it's the 49ers' turn. And if you're a 49er player, you had to think about what could have been for the entire offseason. We know what happened. Brock Purdy got hurt. They had no backup quarterback. They had a guy, I can't even remember what his name was now, who came in that game. He got hurt, and it was so bad. They had nobody else on the roster that Brock Purdy had to come back in with an arm that basically was limp and he couldn't throw and had to hand off the rest of the game. It was a sad situation for the 49ers, and they remember it. They are one of the best, if not the best defensive team in the NFL. They're going to stop this Philadelphia offense. And we've seen in the last several weeks, because they've done their best impression of the Pittsburgh Steelers, stat-wise, get outgained, and find a way to win the Eagles. It stops on Sunday. I'm taking San Francisco. Do not wait. Grab the 2.5. There's still 2.5s out there right now, but it is going to 3. And there's 3s popping up today after the show airs and everybody else comes in on the 49ers as well. It will get to 3. Don't snooze. You'll lose. Get the points now. San Francisco minus 2.5. That's my best bet, Kelly.
Yeah, I can't say that I don't dislike it, but hey, I've gotten really rich betting against the Philadelphia Eagles this year, Marco. Let me tell you. Joe Raineri, who's your best bet for this week in the NFL?
Well, I tell you, regression's going to hit them in a big way at some point here.
Next year.
Next
for the Vikings this year.
Exactly correct. It's coming because before you know it, Josh Dobbs is going to be your quarterback, Dan. All right, let's do this here before that's the kind of regression I'm talking about. He'll make the rounds before it's all said and done because Gardner Minshew ain't coming back. Let's look at a game we already talked about quickly, or what I talked about earlier in the Are You High segment there. I thought 50.5 was way over the top for those 2 teams there, that being the Dolphins and the Commanders. If you're going to get over 50, you better have 2 equally capable offenses here. And the problem is there's only one capable offense in this game, and it is the Miami Dolphins, who will have success. They will score some points here. In fact, I've got this thing somewhere around 30-10, 28-30, somewhere in that ballpark there. The bottom line is the Dolphins will have no problem beating a totally dysfunctional lame duck head coach now who somehow fired his defensive coordinator and thought that was going to be the answer. It's not. Dolphins are going to win. It's going to be a blowout. I got no problem laying the 9 because I see this as a double-digit win for the Dolphins. Don't overthink it. Better team, better offense. They'll get the job done in this one.
All right, don't overthink it. Per Joe Raineri. Let's get that recap graphic up because I got another show to do today. Hope you guys, as always, enjoyed tonight's show as much as we do filming it for you. I cannot believe it is NFL Week 13, but we're going to have at least 8 more weeks here of Bet On It. Don't forget to go check out the College Championship edition that we filmed earlier as well. Got a nice little promo and a good old best bet from Marco and Joe, Ralph, Andy, Chris, VR, and myself. Good luck until next week. Let's bet on it.